Hello, this is Dr. Praveen Ramachandra. I'm senior endocrinologist working in DiaPlus Endocrinology Clinic in Newton, Bangalore, India. Please watch this video.
Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into what's easily one of the most talked about developments in modern medicine right now, Mounjaro, or tirzepatide. But we're going way beyond the superficial hype you see online. Instead, we're going to unpack the absolute clinical rigor it takes to prescribe and manage this powerful drug. And we're basing this directly on the brilliant clinical insights written by Dr. Praveen Ramachandra, who is a senior endocrinologist at the DiaPlus Endocrinology Clinic over in Bangalore, India. So let's jump right in. If you just scroll through social media or watch the news lately, you'd honestly think tirzepatide is just this casual, super fashionable weight loss tool. But Dr. Ramachandra presents a really powerful counter-thesis here. He argues that the difference in patient outcomes doesn't just lie in this amazing molecule itself, but in the actual clinical discipline of the physician prescribing it. We're going to see exactly how to treat this as a serious, long-term metabolic therapy, not just some convenience prescription you read on a whim. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 5 key areas: beyond the prescribing hype, choosing the right patient, essential baseline assessments, active post-prescription monitoring, and finally, the 6-month decision point. All right, part 1, beyond the prescribing hype, reframing the drug. We really need to shift our whole perspective here. It's so easy to see this as a quick fix, but we have to understand its role as a major medical intervention. Think about it. When you see a patient with type 2 diabetes, truncal obesity, maybe some fatty liver, and constantly rising insulin doses, they don't actually have 5 separate diseases. They're expressing one metabolic syndrome through multiple organs. So tirzepatide is a real game changer, not just because it lowers a BMI number, but because its dual GIP and GLP-1 agonism is actually a rational fit for this complex disease biology. It's hitting several of those organ manifestations all at the exact same time. Moving right along to section 2, choosing the right patient, clinical selection. Identifying the absolute ideal candidate means you have to understand the clinical boundaries of this drug. So, on one side, we have our good candidates, right? These are adults with type 2 diabetes who really need that additional HbA1c lowering, or folks with obesity and weight-related comorbidities, things like sleep apnea or insulin resistance. But look at the flip side. We have to avoid or at least use extreme caution in patients with a personal or family history of medullary thyroid carcinoma, multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2, or prior pancreatitis. It is definitely not for everyone, and setting up this boundary is literally step 1 of clinical rigor. And here is a massive red flag. Taking a proper reproductive history is absolutely not optional. NICE follow-up guidance is incredibly clear on this. Tirzepatide should never be used in pregnancy. In fact, it must be stopped at least 1 full month before a planned pregnancy. Taking this history has to happen before you even think about writing that first prescription. Okay, section 3, essential baseline assessments, deliberate, not decorative. Baseline checks are deliberate, not decorative. This is all about patient safety, not just ticking boxes for bureaucratic completeness. Here's a really definitive 6-step practical checklist before you start. 1, confirm the indication. 2, get your baseline physical measurements, height, weight, BMI. 3, do a really thorough review of their medical history for those red flags we just talked about. 4, check their current medicines. 5, order the right baseline labs. And critically, step 6, counsel them on symptoms. You're integrating this drug into a holistic behavioral pathway. You're not just handing them a pen and saying, good luck. Now, to properly establish that clinical context, here are the specific lab assessments you're going to need. You need their HbA1c and fasting or random blood glucose to judge your future success against. You absolutely need liver function tests and a lipid profile to see if you're using the drug strategically to reduce metabolic risk. Oh, and you need a full blood count and renal function tests, creatinine and eGFR. Now, you might be wondering, why renal function? Well, because tirzepatide is known to carry risks of severe gastrointestinal adverse effects. We're talking serious nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. If a patient experiences these, it can quickly precipitate dehydration, which can then acutely worsen their kidney function. You absolutely have to know their baseline eGFR and creatinine before they ever take that very first dose, just so you can monitor them safely down the road. All right, moving to section 4, active post-prescription monitoring, the real test. The real test of a clinician's rigor actually begins after the very first injection. So here is what that clinical monitoring journey looks like. You start at your baseline. Then at the 4-week mark, you have your dose titration reviews to see how they're tolerating it. At 3 months, you're checking that HbA1c and their overall glycemic response. And finally, you arrive at the crucial 6-month decision point. Sticking to this timeline ensures your patient never just falls off the radar. And during those follow-ups, these are the essential questions you've got to ask. Notice these are mostly clinical. They aren't just laboratory-based. Are they tolerating the current dose? Are they staying hydrated? Are they having persistent abdominal pain? Because, that might signal pancreatitis or gallbladder disease. Do they have any new visual symptoms? Actually, rapid glucose improvement can transiently worsen diabetic retinopathy, so you've got to watch for that. Has there been meaningful weight change? Do they need a reduction in their other drugs? Basically, you are actively managing the therapy to prevent completely avoidable harm. Now, this is a crucial concept to grasp. It's called medication housekeeping. Tirzepatide causes this really fascinating ripple effect. As the patient starts dropping weight and their glucose improves, their old prescriptions might suddenly become completely inappropriate. You have to actively adjust or even reduce their insulin and sulfonylureas so they don't hit hypoglycemia. You might even need to dial back their antihypertensives. This drug essentially forces a complete reorganization of their entire medication regimen. Oh, and here's a surprising fact that totally flies under the radar. Because tirzepatide delays gastric emptying, which, by the way, is part of how it makes you feel full, it can actually affect the absorption of oral contraceptives. Yeah, really. So specific counseling and extra attention are required during dose escalation to make sure patients aren't put at risk of an unintended pregnancy. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the 6-month decision point, knowing when to stop. Knowing when to stop is honestly the ultimate test of clinical rigor. According to NICE follow-up guidance, you don't just put someone on this indefinitely without cold, hard proof of benefit. The strict evaluation happens right at 6 months while they're on the highest tolerated dose. You calculate the percentage weight reduction, you look at the HbA1c, and you formally agree with the patient on the next step. Do we continue, adjust, or stop altogether? So what are the definitive clinical stopping rules? Well, here they are. Confirmed pancreatitis, severe and persistent GI intolerance where they just can't handle the dose escalation, any serious hypersensitivity, clinically important gallbladder disease, pregnancy, or, and this is a big one, less than 5% weight loss at 6 months. Seriously, if they haven't lost 5% of their body weight after half a year, the risks may now outweigh the benefits. You have to be willing to hit the brakes and stop. I think Dr. Ramachandra's core message really hits the nail on the head here. Good metabolic medicine definitely requires enthusiasm for these incredible new tools we have. But true medical discipline requires balancing that excitement with objective, structured de-escalation when a powerful treatment simply isn't the right fit for that specific patient. So I want to leave you with a provocative question. Are you simply prescribing a molecule, or are you managing a metabolic trajectory? Proper patient selection, rigorous baseline checks, active monitoring, and having the sheer courage to stop treatment when necessary. That is how you manage a real trajectory. Think about how this applies to your own clinical practice or your understanding of modern medicine. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you with a much deeper, more structured understanding of metabolic care.